part of the messages that are there are not only about how to be a man or how to be a woman, but about how those are supposed to be different and separate from each other.
Okay.
And that's important too. I think that in part comes, from even the impetus of looking at the effects of things on people came out of the feminist and the minority movements and the scholarship associated with those movements. And I think we just kind of haven't quite gotten around to including men as much as we need to. The behaviors associated with hypermasculinity are part of the behaviors that we think of as normal for men.
Yeah.
And so the hypermasculinity has become normalized, in part through the media, and thus then when we see men acting in that way, we don't necessarily notice it.
Yeah.
We think of, oh, well, that's just normal. And I think this comes out of that reinforcement of the sexual dichotomy that men and women are supposed to be very different, and that we can't be alike at all, which I think is an overstatement of that. There's a huge push to be non-feminine, I think, for men at the moment, and I think this is problematic because I think it contributes to male-male violence. I think it contributes to intimate partner violence. I think it contributes to heterosexism, both in terms of non-tolerance of homosexuals and people who are not enacting an appropriate or a non-standard gender. I think that both of those, or all of those, are results of this. So I think that it's increasing. It's an increasing pressure. I think most people see the media as a mirror, in that they think that the media is sort of just reflecting to us what the real world looks like. Now, I know that the media is completely constructed, and all of those, lots of things are chosen, how this is going. We're going to use a red can, or we're going to use a blue can, and there's product placement, and there's all kinds of things and decisions that go into that process. But most people don't realize that. So most people kind of have a notion that television just kind of appears, I think, and they were just filming some people doing some stuff, and this is what we get. They kind of think that it's all just natural. And so I think most people see the media as a mirror to our society, at least to some degree. But so then for them, the media kind of becomes a generalized other. It becomes what we think people in general think or see. And so when we see, if we see or enact alternative forms of masculinity or femininity, we tend to discount them as weird or odd or different because we don't see them reflected in the media where we see the other reflections of everything else that we see. And so I think that does then affect what we think people are like, or what we think men are like, or what we think women are like. And that, fill in your what we think whatever is like, because we see it there, we kind of have this vague notion that it's kind of real, and that it's supposed to kind of mimic reality. And so we don't think about it a whole lot. Most of us think of television and media as pretty trivial things. We don't think of it as having any influence on us. And so when we continually see these messages repeated again and again and again and reinforcing themselves, and we see the same messages reinforced in other areas of culture and other parts of society, then we begin to see, well, that's what the social world is, right? So then we come to believe it. And so I think that that's sort of how that process happens.